Hey, Mike here with Canadian Musician, and standing next to me at the Toronto Urban Roots Festival, coincidentally in Toronto, is Jason and John from Nova Scotia's Stanfields. Thanks a lot for this, guys. How you doing today?
Not too bad. How are you?
Good, man. Good.
Doing great. It's a beautiful day. Can't argue.
It is. You really can't ask for
the weather. Who wears black on sunny day? I do.
Nice. So let's start the latest album. I know it came out back in October, and so it's been a half a year or so, maybe a little bit more actually, since it came out. But I haven't talked to you, so let's start with that. The album's called For King and Country, and I believe it's your third LP, if I remember correctly. But for this one, you guys had always kind of combined this rock sound with folk or rootsy music. But for King and Country, you guys went straight acoustic. Essentially, what was the reasoning behind that? Was that a conscious decision that you came to?
The songs just existed, and I think at one point in a van somewhere in, I don't know, Western Canada or wherever, we realized that we had an album's worth of material, so we thought, well, it's going to be a couple years till we put out another rock and roll record, so why don't we, go to a camp and have a little bit of fun and sit in a circle and record a record, off the floor. And we're kind of writing them as we went along in many cases, so it was a really fun process. It was a really eye-opening one as well. Yeah.
Sorry, you said you went to essentially camp and then just record, or were you actually in a studio, or were you legitimately just camping and recording as you went?
We were at a cottage in Geismar County, Nova Scotia. Nice. We went there on New Year's Day, so we were snowed in. This whole effect. It was cool. We drank 18 bottles of wine. I think it's awesome. It was just like hanging, so it was really cool, and we were really pleased with the results. Yeah.
Were you working with a producer on the album, or were you guys doing it yourself this time around?
What?
A producer?
No, we had a chef. He made a lot of smoked pork shoulder, stuff like that. And the important things, when making a record, things like that. An army marches on its stomach, as they say, and we're no different.
For your second album, Death and Taxes, you guys, I believe you had worked with is it Mike Frazier, who had also worked with AC/DC, who's always mentioned in conjunction with you guys. And but going from that studio atmosphere, working with a guy like Mike Frazier, to doing it on your own in a much more or less formal setting like that, like how did the two experiences compare? Did they influence the music in different ways between the albums?
I don't know. It's like. I suppose more of a relaxed feel in a sense where sorry. It's more of like, keep quiet. It just kind of felt more natural, I suppose. You're just kind of sitting in this cabin, and it's just the way we all write music and learn how to play music. You're kind of essentially sitting in your bedroom and playing acoustics, and except it's being recorded, and sometimes you mess up and you have to start over again. But
I found
it's a good live feel.
Yeah. I found the experience to be almost, in many ways, the polar opposite of, we recorded Death and Taxes. It was, everything very much under the microscope, so technically oriented, with, guitar amps and blah, blah, blah. In this case, we're just like, we loaded up a vehicle full of acoustic instruments and a few microphones and sat in a circle, essentially, and had a lot of good laughs, so it was very much more relaxed in that kind of sense.
Do you prefer that approach to it over being in the studio with a producer, or are they just two different but equal?
There's lessons to be learned everywhere, and I think for guys like us, we have to be conscious of that. There's as much value in walking out of a living room and going out into a beach, like for the soul, like that stuff you can't measure, but in terms of like working with somebody like Mike Frazier, there's a lot of technical know-how, a lot of experience that we picked up on, even for us to pick up on a shred of a guy like that's talent or experience is priceless.
To kind of go back to your guys' roots, I believe Jason and John, you guys are first cousins and grew up together in Nova Scotia.
The other Jason. There's actually two Jasons.
Oh.
Yeah.
My bad.
He's actually my grandfather.
Well, that kind
Took the looks from the family.
fair enough. Well, in that case, I'll stick with John then for this question. but no worries, man. My mistake. But
no problem.
But I think you or your brother Jason, I would seen one of you mention in an interview. Clearly, it wasn't a video interview. And but your grandfather, you've called him the Hank Williams of Guysborough County, Nova Scotia. I think you referred to him as. Your father was a music teacher as well.
Jason's father was. He was my uncle. Jason Wright's father was a music teacher.
Clearly, I didn't get the research on the family done right.
Okay, they say Father Day is the most confusing day in Guysborough anyway, so it doesn't matter. No, Jason's father was a music teacher. His father and my mother, brother and sister.
Essentially, where I was going with it was essentially just how those this is going off the rails quick.
Our
man.
grandfather was like the hit of the parties back in the day, in 50s and 60s. He sing like Hank Williams pretty well, and music's always been in our family, and it's, it's kind of, there's a family kind of vibe about our group too. So I think that it bleeds down. We laugh and fight like brothers, and essentially when you say we're brothers, you're not wrong. That's for sure. We've shared a lot of ups and downs together. So,
and where I was eventually going with that essentially is that obviously very musical background from the early age. How that influenced not just the fact that you play music and then you're in a band, but the sound that you guys have come to together. Was there essentially, is your background as a kid that influenced the sound that the Stanfields have come together to make?
This day and age especially, people have a long list of influences. Like, it's almost like to the point where people are trying to out-influence each other. It's like, oh yeah, but I was influenced by this Japanese noise rock band 5 years ago when they put out a record on Word document, like this kind of stuff. So, like I personally love Marty Robbins, for example. He loves Tommy Emmanuel. Jason Wright likes Foo Fighters, and he's our bouzouki player. It's just odd. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think, the key in that point is communication. It's just about, between the five of us, what it is that we're trying to achieve, what it is we're trying to convey, and it just so happens that we grew up with a lot of roots music, fiddles and country music and bluegrass and all that stuff. So I think that just as we get older, we're 24 now, and we're not. We're 26. Thank you.
Aging quickly.
Yeah. So, all this root stuff, especially that we heard as we were kids, the stuff that we almost hated in some degree, just kind of bled through because, I don't know, you go through a certain amount of breakups as you get older, you go through not making rent, you go through this kind of stuff, and those themes and that old music kind of resounds with you when you get a little older, I think, and yeah.
For the songwriting process, and John, I believe you're the kind of take on the lead songwriter duties, but
I'm the guy that gets the blame, yeah.
But for you, when you're writing, are you writing with the band in mind, or are you just writing for yourself and then some of it transfers over to the band? How does that work for you?
Oh, I always try to think a step ahead. I know these guys. I know J Mac. I know what he's, what he likes to do, and I'm not a mind reader, obviously, but it's just like, yeah, of course, thinking about how we can make things more interesting, because that's the fact of the matter for me. It's like, if I put a song together, it's like, okay, now I want to leave room to make this stupid song interesting, because these guys are all like crackerjack musicians, so it's like I would be extremely mistaken to think otherwise, like, oh no, this is how it goes, and do what I say. Yeah. Go get us a sandwich.
Okay.
But, that's the thing, it's like that's the important thing is that we can all feel like the songs are ours, and it's not just like Yeah, I'm the lead songwriter or whatever. So I actually don't like that. I don't like the term songwriter. I think it sounds boring to me. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I like rock and roll bands. You know, to me that always fired my blood up. So.
Nice. You know what? I'm gonna guess take a step forward because I'm running out of cable here. We're slowly navigating backwards. But Jason, for you, once John brings the songs to the band, are you listening for, what's your approach to it once you first hear that song? Are you listening for what you can do? Are you guys willing to say, you know, maybe the song's not going to work as a band song? Essentially, what does the band do, or what's your mental approach as a musician once he brings the songs to you?
I suppose it depends on each song, but I mean, you listen to it a lot of times. You might get it recorded and you get to listen to it at home too, and you can take a little time to see what comes out, like, you know, see if something suits it, and we, you know, once we get together and actually play it together, and everybody has an opinion on each part too. It's like, okay, I don't think that part works in here, so we'll maybe take it out or try something new, or
Usually
say, hey, I got this.
fight.
Yeah, sometimes those are the good days. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess it depends. Maybe it's like I have a lick or somebody else has a lick, and it's like, hey, actually I got this idea that we can maybe mingle them together, and you know, sometimes the song stays as it's brought in, or sometimes they just get totally mashed or ripped apart, I guess. We're all pretty honest with each other. It's good that way, and so, yeah.
And lastly here, and you know, admittedly this may be a bit off the mark in that, but like there's a couple of things that came into play. Like first, just the name of Stanfields. From what I understand, it's named after or inspired by the Stanfield family, which included Robert Stanfield, the former premier Nova Scotia Conservative Party leader. And you guys also bring in some like political topics, such as in songs such as death and taxes, and the one that I was listening to on repeat this morning, its name is escaping me, where you're talking about going to fight the rich people's war.
Sure.
Yeah, ship to shore. And I was listening to these songs, the name combined with some of the topic matter. I was just wondering if you think of yourself as a political band or a political songwriter in any way, or even a topical songwriter.
Topical, maybe not so much. I find a lot of political bands, so to speak.
Yeah.
In my opinion, a lot of times I don't like having a finger pointed at me. You know, it's like when we sing these songs, we're recognizing to ourselves that we're as much a part of the problem as anyone.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just America ruining this world. It's not just, you know, jackasses ruining this world. We're all playing our part in it. The fact that, you know, we're staying here at a festival and I see so many combustible engines, you know, just for our enjoyment, you know, really, like, I don't want to be a downer, but it's like,
sure.
that's in my mind, that's the fact of the matter. It's just like, I'm enjoying being here. This is part of my livelihood, of course, but it's like, you know, I just, you know, for us, it's like we collectively can do better, I think. And, you know, as far as the name of the band, you know, with a conservative politician, it's not, you know, I think a conservative gets a bad rap just because of, you know, the Stephen Harpers of the world and all that bullshit. But you know, here we are. It's like there's a key word in conservatism. It's conserve. You know, we got to conserve what's around us, and I think we got to take some of these things back and be better to each other generally. Let's not, you know, strip the land in the Congo to make iPhones. You know?
Nice. Well said, man. And wrap up here, but good luck. You guys are on stage in about an hour. Again, we're at the Toronto Urban Roots Festival. This has been my talk with one of the Jasons and John from Nova Scotia's of Stanfield. The last album was called For King and Country. Thanks again for this, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, that's all right.